Hey y'all, how's it going? We are starting off with an editor's note. All of the footage that was filmed for this video was filmed a while back. It was filmed probably at the end of summer, beginning of fall 2022 is my best guess. I have basically all of the footage of when I read this book. However, I can't really seem to find the clip that I had for my conclusion of everything. So I am actually just going to film that in the now. I have a pretty good understanding and memory of what exactly I was planning on talking about. So otherwise, let's take it back to summer of 2022. Hey y'all, how's it going? Welcome back to another reading vlog. Now I know that you guys have actually never seen me use this, but I do indeed have a Kindle. My husband got it for me a couple of years ago. One novel that is already downloaded onto my Kindle, which was actually downloaded when my husband gave it to me, was Where the Crawdads Sing, which, as you guys are probably aware, has just been recently made into a major motion film. Now at this point when I'm filming it, it is still in theaters, and I really do want to go see it, but I have heard from way too many people that this was like their favorite book, and I feel like I would be doing an injustice to the movie watching experience without first reading the book. I've heard from multiple different women that this is their favorite romance book. They say that not only is this their favorite romance book, but their favorite book in general, which sets the bar pretty high. I'm excited to put this to the test. I'm sure that my husband is going to be very excited that I am using my Kindle. And after I film this video, I have plans to watch Where the Crawdads Sing, do a little bit of a compare and contrast reaction video, if you will. I will probably have to wait until after it's done in the theaters because I want this to be a genuine reaction being filmed, and obviously I can't do that in the theater. So I'm excited and I am hopeful, since I literally just stopped reading The Host, and by stopped I mean I didn't finish it. All right, it's getting late. It's finally actually kind of getting dark because it literally doesn't get dark up here in Montana until 10:30. So I'm gonna start getting ready for bed, and also going to start in on the new book. Very exciting. Hopefully it'll be a fast read if it's really good. Alright, so my goal for tonight was to finish the first 3 chapters. First chapter was spectacular. I think that the timeline for the first 3 chapters is very interesting because they are bouncing back and forth between 9 years. So the intro was, I guess, in like the present, we'll call 1969 the present, but then the next 2 chapters was all the way back in 1952, giving background of the main character, and then they bounce back to this intense murder mystery, basically. One thing that I do really enjoy about Kindles is that it's really easy to just like go for it with reading. Do you see how little those words are and how easy it is to just like, because that's not even a full page, that's like half a page, but you're like scrolling through it really fast thinking, wow, I'm reading this book so fast. It's a trick, everybody. You're not reading it very fast. You just have extra pages. I already really do love the main character, Kaya. She is super cute, seems really funny. I know that we're getting the perspective of her as a 6-year-old child, but as far as 6 to 7-year-olds go, she's pretty likable, very independent, self-sufficient, because she has to be, which is the sad part. I wasn't expecting how sad the first chapter was going to be, since I only saw in the movie her mom leaving her. I thought maybe she just lived with her mom, and for some reason like her mom disappeared. Yo, she had like 5 siblings, and so when her mom disappeared, little by little all of the other siblings just started to leave home. And I double checked the dates. At first I thought it was like, oh, and a few years later, like as the years went on and the kids grew up, but it literally happened within a span of a few weeks. And then she lost like her closest sibling, not to like dying, but he basically told her like, I can't live here anymore, you're just gonna have to fend for yourself, which I kind of thought was weird. Like, why would he not want to take her with him? Something I never considered before. He was about like 13, 14. Like, they could have taken on the world together. I liked how they threw in the second chapter, kind of a little bit of a nuance. There's a character named Chase Andrews. I only know his name. That's literally all I know about him. There's a character named Chase Andrews that is mentioned not only in the present, so the 1969 chapters, but also in the past. So they're putting in like little nuggets of like how the main character and how Chase Andrews know of each other initially. So I'm interested to see where that goes. I've already read about 26 pages, and according to Kindle, I am 8% of the way through. And my assumption is that if this book is really good, like everybody is saying, it's going to be a really quick read. I mean, there's really not much that I would change about it. At this point, I am just very curious of how this story is going to go, because it's pretty clear that it is like a murder mystery. So I'm curious of what theme is going to be more prevalent, the romance or the murder mystery portion. I'm rambling. This video is getting long already, and I'm only on chapter 3. So I will talk to you guys later. When I get to, let's say when I get to a third of the way through. Hello everybody, I have some updates for you. So I got to a third of the way through for Where the Crawdads Sing. I only started this book about 2-3 days ago, and I'm already a third of the way through, which is like unheard of. I'm notoriously known for being very slow at reading books, and it's not because I am a slow reader, like it takes me forever to read one chapter. I'm actually a speed reader, which is part of the problem. But I speed read, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read it tomorrow, and then I don't read it for another 3 months. But with this book, it's completely different. This book was really, really captivating, and what's so interesting, at the end of the third chapter to a third of the way through, not too much happens. And when I mean not too much happens, is not a lot of action happens. This is basically all backstory of the main character and of, you know, how the investigation is going on, and these small, tiny, minute clues that they are finding that the death wasn't an accident. But nothing has been proven. No one has even been accused for the crime yet. There's literally no link between who killed Chase to anybody that's in the story so far. There hasn't been any sort of accusations that have been made. But it was so beautifully written and so descriptive. They almost don't even notice that really nothing is going on. And generally I would complain about that, where I would say, okay, I'm a third of the way through the book. I should have hit some conflict a little earlier, but I'm just having fun joining the ride here. Something that I also did not know that did end up being a spoiler for me, but I am grateful that I didn't know before I started reading the book or before I even heard about Where the Crawdads Sing in general. It's a love triangle. I had no idea. Even in like the preview for the movie, it looks like she's just with one guy. No, there's 2 boys. Generally, I am a love triangle hater. I made a whole entire video about how I hate love triangles and how I think it's lazy writing and how I think it's a stupid trope that just needs to die out. But I'm curious to see how this book is going to do it. From what I have heard from other people, it has done a lot better than a lot of different fantasy novels of how they have done it in the past, but I will be the judge of that. Guys, I cannot tell you how tempting it is to just like go see it in theaters, because everybody who has seen it has told me, oh my gosh, it's so good, you would love it. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure I would. I'm sure I would love it. All right, we're a third of the way through. Not much has happened yet, except we have been introduced to a couple of great characters. Kai is just kind of living her life, and she's learning how to read. That's basically where we're at right now. I'm excited to get halfway through because I have a feeling that the plot is going to really, really thicken between a third to halfway. Until then, we're gonna continue reading, and this might be the first book that I actually finish reading within a week. You like my buns? I don't know how I feel about them yet, but I like that it's keeping the hair out of my face, and it's actually framing my face pretty nicely. Hello everybody, long time no see, except not really a long time. It probably has been a few days since I have read, maybe even a week, I don't quite remember, but last week was kind of chaotic, so I am catching up now. My mom started reading the book after I started reading it, and she's already finished. So I'm hoping that since I hit a third of the way through, I'll be able to hit halfway tonight. So we're gonna see if I can accomplish that goal. It is me again, and it is the next day. I fulfilled the promise to myself, and I read to halfway through the book, 50% of the way done, all last night between the third of the way through and halfway. Now I have some context on who these boys are. We kind of learned a little bit about Tate by the time that you get to a third of the way through. But you see both relationships begin to blossom between Tate and Chase Andrews. I don't know how to feel about either of them at this point. At first, I was totally team Tate. I was obsessed with him. I loved all of the things that he did for her, and also how respectful he was. Like, she was super young, and he is like quite a few years older than she is. And he, at first, you know, kind of wants to like get some physical things going on, and she's like totally down for it. But he is like, whoa, I gotta stop myself. He stopped himself. He stopped himself from doing stuff because he's like, whoa, I'm a lot older than you. You're still so young, and I'm a lot older than you. I just want to do this differently. And I was like, go feminist Tate. But then he like didn't come back for the stupidest reason. I think that reasoning was a little bit of a cop-out to give the author a reason to have Tate leave and then have Chase Andrews jump into the picture. I don't like Chase Andrews at all. Not one bit. Not even a little bit. I do not like him. I think he is bad news. I think he's just a horny boy. I don't trust him. I don't trust Chase Andrews at all. Like, at all. I do not like him. So I don't like either of them, but I like Tate more than I like Chase, which works out good because Chase is dead anyway. By the way, that is super not a spoiler because that's kind of the whole entire premise of the book. Within chapter 1, you know Chase is dead. You know he's dead. It's very interesting how they did it based on her different ages, because initially, the first part of the third of the way through, she was like 15, barely 15, when she was in a relationship with Tate. He was like 19. So I'm like, okay, yeah, that's pretty young to first get into a relationship, barely knowing how to read. And now she's 19. Since Tate taught her how to read, she knows how to read a lot, and that's basically all she does is she just studies things about the marsh. That is probably one of the greatest gifts that he could have given her, is the ability to read, and her getting all of these old textbooks from him. I think that partially the author kind of just like needed a reason for him to go away. So college was an easy one, but then he said like, oh, like I'll come back, and then he just never did. I think I would have changed that a little bit. I think that I would have had him come back, you know, the first few times. They'll have a relationship, but then like each time he comes back, the times get longer and longer. So it kind of shows a similar relationship that she had to her father, because her dad did the same thing. Her dad is horrible. He's a horrible drunk, but Tate isn't like that, but they basically did the same thing. So I think that that would have been cool to kind of incorporate that parallel where she's like, you're just like my dad. I feel like that would have been a little bit more creative rather than Tate coming back for the first time and then deciding to just not see her and then turn around. I don't know. It just didn't really make sense to his character, in my opinion. Now, this is a very like harsh criticism, because other than that, the book is spectacular. I love all of the imagery that you can see with all the descriptions. So far, the story is spectacular. I love the main character, Kaya. I don't know. I'm just rambling, and I am saying my thoughts of how I perhaps would have done things different. And if I'm being honest with myself, I don't even know if that would be the right way to go about it. I just know that I wasn't the biggest fan of the way that the author incorporated Tate leaving like half of the way through. The college part was good. That's very realistic. That's something that very much happens. And that was a good reason for him to leave for college. Like, he actually had some passion about the marsh and he wanted to help it as somebody who could help out in his hometown, but first he needed to go away. Yeah, spectacular. But the not seeing Kaya part is just not adding up in my mind. I don't know why. I'll try and think about it a little bit more as I read, and perhaps there will be some things that come to light as I read more of the book. So, more on that. We will see how much of it I will get done. But so far, I'm very much enjoying it. I know I look super bad right now, but I do not care because I have something to say about this book. I am 85% done with Where the Crawdads Sing. So, I'm not going to give away any spoilers. What I'm about to say here is really harsh. This is probably the harshest thing that I have ever said about a love triangle, ever. But if you do not know what choice is the right choice at this point in the book, I am afraid of you, I do not trust you, and I think you're a danger to society. And I am not saying this to be funny. I am being genuine about this. It drives me crazy whenever people like choose the other person, like the other guy, and they're like, they should have been with them. The author made it really obvious, guys. Painfully obvious. And you still didn't get it. But at this point, if you choose the other person, and for those who have read this book, you know who I'm talking about, you are not a good person if you chose the wrong one. Not a good person. Say to the camera, I am not a good person. But I was so excited about how everything went with the book. I didn't want to go to bed last night, which was kind of bad because I had work in the morning. So I'm very excited to read it tonight, and I think I might finish it tonight. We'll see. I hope I do. I'll have to read the last little bit. Hopefully I will finish it, and hopefully I will have a synopsis to record next time. Hey y'all, welcome back to the future. I just realized that during Where the Crawdads Sing, we are often going back and forth between the past and the future, present, whatever you would like to call it. And I realized that I accidentally did that here, so while it wasn't necessarily my intention, it goes along with the theme of the book pretty well. Spectacular book. So wonderfully written, very detailed, made you think about a bunch of different things rather than just the murder mystery itself. There were a bunch of different nuances in there about nature and about the differences between human society and nature, and I am going to get into that in just a little bit, without trying to give away too many spoilers. Obviously, in the very beginning of the book, there is someone who was recently murdered, and a huge driving plot of the book is not only to understand more about Kaya, but also more about who could have possibly killed this person that she is basically being framed for, just because it is, quite frankly, just very convenient. It's very convenient that a girl that was somehow romantically connected to this boy, then he ends up dead. Well, it makes sense that she would just be animal enough to kill him, right? So it goes through the entire trial and represents a lot of things during mistrial, right? All of the jury are basically the rich aristocrats that would look down on people who lived within the marsh. It went over a lot of different things that I was just very impressed about, especially during that time period. It really made you think about the differences between what is right and fair and what is wrong. I was told by some people that there would be this big plot twist of who the person was who actually killed Chase Andrews. And I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't really a surprise to me. But what I liked about this book is that towards the middle of the book, there were about 4 different people where I was thinking, I could see them doing this. It makes sense why some of these different characters would have motive, which made it really fun because it made me think who has the better motive. But towards the end of the book, I definitely had my suspicions of who it was, and I did end up being right, which doesn't happen very often. But what I do love about that, because I know that some people say that they don't like books where it's too easy. I like books where it's medium, where you are giving the reader an opportunity to look at the clues that you have given them, to look at the clues and to figure it out. And perhaps they'll get it wrong, but half of the time, a lot of the people that are reading are going to get it right. So that was an interesting, I guess, perspective that I had on it. And I'm not exactly sure if I was given that perspective because people were telling me ahead of time that there was this big plot twist, or if I would have been able to figure it out on my own with nobody saying anything, but I think that I would. I definitely think that I would have been able to figure it out. And something else that I just thought was so interesting. Towards the end of the book, Kaya makes some decisions. She makes some decisions that some people found questionable, that some people found not morally right. And this is what I got out of that. Kaya lived a completely different life than anybody, than most people in this world. The only people that were close enough to living her way of life are people that live in societies that are not as developed yet. They become a part of the food chain, truly being integrated into the environment that they are in. I think that what I had to remember about Kaya is not only did she hardly ever grow up around people, and the people that she did grow up around could only give her a little bit of perspective on human interaction and human civilization and the rules with that. But she didn't run by those rules because those people didn't accept her. Human civilization and everything that she knew about it did not accept her for who she was, based on prejudices of just not being within a high social status, of her being looked down upon, not even given a chance when she was a child by this town. And it happened again when it became convenient for them to point their finger at the bad guy. So human civilization never accepted her, but nature did. So therefore, she followed nature's rules. And I think that that was something that helped me kind of clarify and understand some more things about Kaya's character development, which I think is so cool. I'm very impressed with this book. Highly recommend. I do have to say I did not realize how much more adult content was in there. I know that a lot of older women had read this book and said that it was their favorite book, but just kind of like as a precaution for anybody who is under the age of 18 reading this book, I'm gonna give this book a 9 out of 10. Now the reason I'm docking 1 point is because I felt like there were a couple of plot holes that were kind of explained away, and in some scenarios it just quite frankly didn't seem very realistic or in line with some of the characters' personality traits, but that is something that's really, really petty on my part. Otherwise, fantastic book. Still gets an A. Thank you so much for watching this video and for sticking to the very end of this reading vlog. If there are any books that you would like me to read and do reading vlogs on, I would love to get some more recommendations. Obviously, I have a lot of to-be-read books inside of my bookshelf right now, but that doesn't mean I can't add more. Sayonara, you guys, and I will see you next time. Bye!